Hello and welcome back to the SOPRANO podcast. I am your podcast host, and my name is Heidi, and it's great to see you again. We're back at it, you guys. Episode 75. Can you believe it? I think it's episode 75. Let me double check because, girl, I've got too many things happening in my brain to remember what day it is. So, yep, confirmed. Episode 75. Aren't you glad it's confirmed? Me too. So, listen up, you guys. Today, we had some good things happen. I got a new website. My website is HeidiSchneidermusic.com. And Eric Rasmussen, if you're listening, thank you once again. I owe my life to Eric because I can't even tell you really how frustrating technology is to me. It makes me anxious. It makes me upset. It makes me sweaty. It makes me, have indigestion and gas. And, I don't want that in my life. And some people are just blessed with this gift of patience for technology. And I just don't really have patience for anything, let alone technology. So it's yeah, yuck. Big, fat yuck from me. And I am very grateful that Eric was so helpful and so kind. If you ever need any kind of web design or tech stuff, I don't know, call or message, who calls? Message Eric Rasmussen, and you can find him on Facebook. He's got a website too, Eric Rasmussen Tenor, I believe is his website. But yeah, if you look up my Facebook, you'll see his Facebook. Also, I'm pretty sure he has a very unique name, ErikRasmussen, I think. Eric, don't come for me, okay? You have a hard to spell last name. And so do I. So it's listen. Here we go. I know. Yes, I spelled it right. Oh my god, I'm such a pro. ErikRasmussen. There you go. Eric Rasmussen. So, listen up, you guys. Oh man, today has been kind of a whirlwind. I had a really strange meeting with my boss and my coworkers. We usually have staff meetings every Monday, and we did. Today was not an exception. But it just turned into this weird political conversation, and I'm not going to comment on it very much because I just really don't feel like it. But excuse me, sorry. Just swallowed some of my own spit. But yeah, I feel like I was proud of myself, one, for just being able to have that conversation and think critically about it. People don't have these kinds of conversations in person anymore. One, because of COVID, we don't really see each other, but also two, because of social media. People are so quick to comment something, and you can sit there and think about what you're gonna write in a comment, whereas in a conversation it's really a test of your ability to stay calm and your ability not to speak over someone, your ability to listen. Listening is huge in conversations about things that are hot topics. You really want to understand what the other person is saying, because that's why you're having that conversation, so that you can not express your opinion, but so that you can really listen and try and understand it from somebody else's point of view. So that was an interesting thing that happened to me today. It was kind of stressful, I'm not going to lie. But then we came back here, and I took a shower. I've been doing this weird thing where I've been taking showers in the middle of the day because my mornings are busy, my evenings are busy with classes, and I just kind of shower in the middle of the day. And it's kind of ridiculous because you're ew, oh my god, you don't shower right before you go to bed, or you don't shower right before you wake up. But it's no, I mean, I get home here in the afternoons, and then I pretty much like get in here and I have to like start teaching lessons from home. So it just kind of works out. I don't know. It's been a weird thing. My whole schedule has been completely thrown off by COVID, and just this semester. Like, this semester has been one of the weirdest semesters ever. Super isolating, but also just like super busy. Like, I don't feel isolated. I like the fact that as soon as I turn off my computer, like as soon as I turn off Zoom, I can just kind of, plop down and like, today, I just like turned off Zoom and I immediately started jumping over to the hide-in, like I could just practice, and I was in my pajamas, like I was ready to relax. I started making dinner. Like, as much as I miss having the energy of a practice room, having the energy of my office in the music building, it is kind of nice to be able to do so many things all at once. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't be able to start dinner if I was in my office. I wouldn't have been able to put my pajamas on if I was in my office at school. I wouldn't have been able to, like, even sit down comfortably. Like, I would have sat in, like, a chair, like an upright chair, or a desk chair. Whereas here, I can sit on my couch, or I can, like, sit on my bed or something. So it does kind of suck in a way, because it's not as fun. Like, even in my lessons, I just so wish that these kids were like next to me, like here, because even today I was like I was screen sharing, which I freaking hate because my computer hates it, and my computer gets so slow as soon as I start screen sharing, slower than it normally is. And yeah, so I was trying to screen share today, and it's just so difficult because I have to make it bigger, obviously, so that the kids can read it. But then that means I have to be scrolling, like scrolling the screen. Like, I can't just like only sing a couple bars. And I also have to be playing the piano, and I have to be listening for this kid, like, to make sure that my sound's not cutting out or nothing weird is happening. Like, I don't know, dude. It's very strange. So, and I'm also just looking at my microphone right now, and it is pretty far up. Let me turn this down. I know you're not really supposed to do that, but here we are. I think that was one of the only things that I read in the instruction manual of this microphone. Like, don't mess with the dial while you're using it. And I do it all the time. So maybe I'm shooting myself in the foot here. If you're into like technology and stuff, let me know how much I'm abusing my microphone. Love that for me. Yeah, so I don't know. I wish that things were different. But also, here we are today, just living our lives. So there's nothing I can really do about it now, except for continue on, just continuing my life. I hope you liked yesterday's podcast. If you didn't listen to yesterday's episode on Valentine's Day, do that. It is a treat. Kat, my dear friend Kat, was here, and yeah, we were just hanging out, having a silly time, having a fun time. I think sometimes those kinds of things are so fun to listen to. For me, I have never listened to one of these podcasts. I'll be the first to admit it. I do not like to listen to them. I kind of treat them as a live performance that happened to have been recorded. Like, I don't want to try and edit it. I don't want to try and go back and fix things about it. I just don't. That's not my goal. So yesterday, I accidentally, like unknowingly, because I was just having a great time with my friends, and I think I like dropped an F-bomb or something, like, and I think we let out a couple choice words. But you know what? Like, I'm an adult, okay? Like, I'm not trying to cater to anyone, and I do know please understand that I do know that I have students. I do know that I'm a teacher. I do understand all of these things. I very much am aware of that, and I do care about my image that is out there on the internet. But also, I think we're getting to a point these days where your quote image on the internet is becoming more and more of who you really are, and less of this, resume kind of like perfected version of yourself that nobody can talk badly about because you're just this perfect version of yourself online. It's so far from that now with TikTok and, streaming, and also I feel like nobody really cares these days. Like, everybody has things that they, people all have things that they wish they didn't do or wish they didn't say online or whatever, but it almost doesn't really matter. Like, it just doesn't. Like, when you die, is somebody really going to go back and be like, yeah, well, one time she sweared on the internet. She sweared. She used bad grammar on the internet. No, like, that's not the point. Like, listen, I don't ever claim to be kid friendly. I never claim to be family friendly or whatever. There's a little box on YouTube that says, is this video meant for kids? And every single time I click, no, girl, absolutely not. Because, I talk about, sometimes I have drinks on the podcast. I talk about, very personal stuff. I talk about mental health. I talk about things that perhaps if you were a parent, you wouldn't necessarily want your kid learning about that from like a random person on YouTube, which is fine. You can totally like control what your kid sees, and that's totally chill. Yeah, I'm not claiming to be kid friendly though. So if you listened yesterday and you were like, whoa, I can't believe that she like talked like she actually talks in person on the podcast, because that's how I talk. Like, I am not like a clean vocabulary person. I mean, I'm not like a sailor or anything, but I definitely am sometimes swearing up a storm. I live my life. I don't care. But yeah, so that's my thoughts on that. I was thinking about that last night, being like, oh my god, what if my grandma sees this or something, or what if my future employer sees this, or what if my current employer sees this? It's like, listen, I will defend myself about the things that I do. I feel like I make choices, and I'm just out here living my life. So if you can't like defend yourself, listen, this is my podcast, and if you don't want to listen to it, you don't have to. I'm not forcing you to listen to it. I'm not, it's not my resume. This podcast is not my resume. So if you're looking for my resume, there is a very professional document that I spent many, many hours on, trying to look perfect and what employers might want, blah, blah, blah. But this is not one of those things. And I know that people sometimes get this image in their head of teachers or, employees who are supposed to have these like spotless social media presences, spotless online presences. And I'm not saying that I don't think that's what people are looking for, because I don't really know what people are looking for. But I almost feel like it's not what people care about. So I'm going to leave it at that. And if you do care about it and you'd like to talk about something like that, just let me know. I'd love to chat about it and explain to you why I think that it's not that big of a deal. But I think you pretty much know. So you got it. Okay, great. All right, people, let's get into our daily dose here. Our minute sketch of our daily composers. Whoa, this book is falling apart. I'm getting to that point where the binding is literally broken. Okay. we've got Antonin Dvorak. I don't know how to say his first name. Antonin? Antonin? I think I'm going to say Antonin. So, here we go. His subtitle here is He Made Symphonies Out of Folk Songs. If any of you are new to this segment, this is our minute sketches of great composers. Welcome, welcome. We read a minute. It's never a minute long, but we read a page long of a little information about a composer a day. So here we go. Dvorak. A bohemian peasant, with all the peasant's love of color, of stamping rhythms and bright melody. Okay. Antonin Dvorak was, after Smetana, the first creator of national bohemian music. Son of the jolly innkeeper in the sleepy village of Mühlhausen, the swarthy, black-eyed lad passed a happy youth with village tunes and village dances all about him. A year as innkeeper butcher at 15 convinced him that sausage making was not his vocation. Same girl. And he persuaded his father, against strong opposition, to allow him to enter the Organschule at Prague. Handicapped by lack of money, without books or scores or music paper, with only what he could earn playing at cafes or at occasional engagement with the opera under Smetana, he still managed to be graduated in 1860 and win the second prize. He managed to spend the next 12 years studying, in his poor lodgings, from borrowed scores, the works of great masters. If ever a knight earned his spurs by fasting and prayer, he was that knight. The first composition to which he applied his study, an opera, King and Collier, reeked of German influence and failed dismally. But he retrieved himself by writing a stirring national song which caught his countrymen like wildfire. The Slavonic dances, produced in 1878, brought him fame overnight, thanks partly to Liszt, their publicity agent in Germany. Oh. Sorry. Dvorak went to bed one night comparatively unknown, and awoke to find himself hailed in Germany and England as a great Bohemian composer. Americans love him especially because, while he was director of the New York Conservatory from 1892 to 95, he became so much interested in the Negro tunes sung for him by one of his students that he embodied them in the New World Symphony. It took a Bohemian to recognize that America had folk music. He should have been happy in America, where he was appreciated, but homesickness drove him back to Prague to spend the last years of his life composing and directing the conservatory there. He died May 1st, 1904. The wild rhythms of the Czech Furiant and the melancholy lilt of the Dukma, sorry if I'm saying that wrong, masterly orchestration, naturalness, and sincerity of expression give romantic warmth and color to the 5 symphonies, symphonic poems, chamber music, violin, humoresque, and songs, which make them popular in the best sense, beloved by the people. Yeah, made symphonies out of folk songs, huh? I love that. I think that it's really interesting that so many of these composers that I know, but I don't really know too much about them particularly. I don't know. A lot of them were just poor. And it literally says handicapped by a lack of money, without books or scores or music paper. These are the things that make me have lots of questions about things, because I saw earlier today 2 things. I saw earlier today this meme thing, and I'm gonna try and explain it the best I can. Y'all know I'm bad at explaining memes. But I saw this meme today that was like, great composers, all the big great composers. Were they actually geniuses, or were they just white and born into like Europe during, that high time when it was like time to be a good time to be a composer, like Were they actually geniuses, or did they just get formal training because they had money? And I think there's arguments for both sides here. For sure, there are definitely some composers who were affluent and white, and they just had resources. But I think that there were some true geniuses, for sure, obviously. But then also there's people like Dvorak here who, I don't know. It's so hard for me to put into context right now. I had a big conversation about money today and that whole kind of thing. The other thing that I saw online was, I don't know if you've seen it, but there was a post about a presentation in Texas that came from like a bassoonist or a bassoon teacher, faculty, someone. And they were giving like this conference, this faculty conference or some kind of thing where they were putting up a PowerPoint, and the slide of the PowerPoint said things like, how to choose a bassoon student. You know, make sure they're from an affluent community. Make sure they have the right socioeconomic status. Do they live in an apartment or do they own? Like, are they renting or do they have a mortgage? Like, make sure they have married parents or like, you know, things like that. Which is honestly, it grinds my gears like you wouldn't believe, because ugh, if you cannot see the blatant issue with that kind of thinking, I don't care if that's how it's always been. I don't care if this is how people, you know, this is the reality of bassoon playing. I am not a bassoonist. I don't know what, you know, obviously goes into it. Obviously, it's a lot of money for reeds. The instrument itself is extremely expensive, but so is the reed making and the upkeep. And listen, I get it. But at the same time, you can't just be like complacent with the fact that these people are putting barriers in front of people who just don't even have a fighting chance, because you're telling other educators, you're telling other people to just be like, hey, don't pick that kid for bassoon, or don't let that kid play bassoon. Don't do anything. Because it's like, listen, you know, as an educator, it's, for me personally, my personal philosophy is that you have to fight for your kids. You have to fight for their right to acquire knowledge and to acquire experiences. And if that means that you have to go in and like look for money for them, like find grants, you have to find scholarships, you have to find something, you have to find money in the community, you have to put on fundraisers, you have to do anything. If some kid really came to you and was like, I really want to play the bassoon, I really do, I think that, you know, maybe my cousin played it or my grandma played it, or there's some specific reason why this kid really wants to play the bassoon. And surprise, like, they're not in control of their socioeconomic status, so they don't understand that it comes with a lot of money. So you explain that to them, and then they're like, well, you know, I don't have any control of that anyway. So it's so frustrating to me. It's like, how can these people, like, how could you say that? You know, how could you in good conscience as an educator say that? It's very frustrating, because I know a lot of administrators would be like, well, that's the reality. You have to have the money to make things go round, blah, blah. Trust me, girl, I get that. If anybody knows, I get it. But I am not trying to put up barriers here. I'm not trying to put up a fence in between just the starting line of the race, right? Like, it's not like I'm trying to give everybody a trophy here. Nobody's trying to give everybody a free pass to the top. I'm not trying to do that. I'm just saying, when you say things about people's financial status, when you put barriers up in between people who are trying to succeed, and you just say, no, you can't because you don't fit this mold, yeah, that's not a good look. Your best interest is not in the student at that moment. And I personally had an experience where I was told by a prospective teacher of mine. I was looking for a new teacher when I was looking for my master's degree. And I was scouting out schools and blah, blah, blah. I was looking for schools and whatever. And I met with this one teacher whose name I will not disclose. But basically, I traveled to New York from Buffalo to have a lesson with this person. And I get there, and I had forgotten to ask how much the lesson would cost. And the day of, I asked, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I completely forgot. What are your rates? Like, we had been kind of going back and forth about the school and whatever. And I think the lesson rate was like either $180 or like $200 for the hour. And I'm like, oh, at that time I was traveling. I had already spent a ton of money on travel expenses and, just trying to survive the travel. Things come up and whatever. You got to pay for trains and planes and automobiles, all the things. I luckily had somewhere to stay, though I wasn't paying for a hotel. But $200, like, that's a lot of money for me to just drop for a lesson that I wasn't expecting to have, to pay. I thought it was going to be, like, under $100, which was naive of me to think, for sure. But I got reamed out by this teacher who I wouldn't even consider this person a teacher because of the way that she spoke to me, that they spoke to me. Well, there we go. That she spoke to me. Just really nasty about, like, you'll never make it in this field if you can't afford this, if you can't, if you can't make this work, this is a really low rate for teaching, whatever. And I'm like, listen, I was 22, 23 when I met this person? How dare you belittle a 22, 23-year-old person into feeling bad about how much money they don't have and how much they're not going to make it in their field just because of the money that they don't have. That's what I'm saying. This is the kind of thing that shouldn't be on anybody's mind. If you're an educator, you should be concerned with the kids and their progress, or your students. They don't have to be children, but you should be concerned with your students, their progress, and you personally as the teacher, as the mentor, doing everything you can to help your students succeed and not trying to bar students from even entering the playing field. So that's my 2 cents on that. And I've probably said things along these lines before in my life. But, sometimes it is humbling to have to explain your viewpoints on something, and to have to explain your viewpoints to someone who might not necessarily agree with you, which is fine, I'm all about trying to express to people what I think, and like I said before, listening is really important. When I had this conversation, with this person who was trying to make me feel bad about how much money I don't have, that was a really, traumatic experience for me. I felt very belittled. I felt very upset. But it led me to Stony Brook, in a way. Because I was also looking at Stony Brook. I had looked at a bunch of schools, and I had taken trial lessons with a bunch of people. And I finally got to Stony Brook. And I had a lesson with Randy Scarlatta. And when I met him, I had talked to him online about this, via email. But I asked him, I said, what are your rates? Because I learned my lesson the hard way. You got to ask the rates way beforehand, so you got to take out a loan so you can pay for these freaking lessons. And Randy said to me, he said, oh, yeah, no charge, nothing. And I was like, what? Nothing? And he was like, yeah, no, this is like a recruitment lesson. This is like a trial lesson. I would never charge somebody for like taking a lesson with someone who they don't know, or like, I want you to come to Stony Brook. I think it's a good school and I advocate for the school, and we have good faculty here. We have good opportunities here. I think you should come here, and I want to advocate for this school and blah, blah, blah. And he just like said all of the right things to me. And I was like, you know what? This is someone who cares about the process. This is someone who cares about the quality of the experiences that I would be getting. And not to say that you should do things for free, because, come on, you don't have to do that. But the fact that he did that, and the fact that he made it so much a point to say, I don't charge for recruitment lessons, I don't charge for trial lessons, and perhaps he does, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he said he wouldn't charge me for that specific lesson because he wanted to recruit me. I found that so important, and I can't even really explain to you why I found it so important, but I just did. So that's one of the main reasons why I came to Stony Brook, and I came here to study with Randy. And yeah, so then things happened and things changed, but that's why I'm here. So moral of the story is sometimes bad things lead to good things, but also sometimes you have to stick up for what you believe in, and you have to voice your opinion in a calm and educated manner. And yeah, just speak your truth, It doesn't matter if this is like the truth of the world. That can change if you really make it, if you really really put your mind and heart to something, and you really like made it your life's goal to at least have changes within your own studio, or within your own teachings, or within your own education, or within whatever. You can make those changes. I am one to say that I am not complacent with the things that are handed to me if I do not agree with them. And if that is handed to me involves putting other people down, or making children feel badly about how much money their parents don't have, that's messed up, and I'll be the first to say it and stand up for those kids. I don't know exactly what I'm able to do for them, but I know that that's not right. So that's all I have to say about that. And if you want to go find those posts, go ahead, look for them. Come to your own conclusions about this stuff that I've been talking about. And yeah, guys, so I'm gonna go. I need to do some more practicing, and I need to go to bed. It's almost 9 o'clock. It's almost my bedtime. Alright, I'm fussing with all these candlesticks over here. I've got a lot of wax seals that I use, and they're just so fun. They're so colorful. Okay, so, you guys, thank you so much for listening. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. I kind of went on a rant a little bit, but I appreciate you listening. If you listened all the way to the end, thank you. You're a trooper. And this, of course, is the Paper Soprano podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast and you want to hear more, hit the subscribe button. And also hit the little bell notification. It'll notify you every single time I post, which is, in fact, every day. I post a podcast every day where we have just a little chat, me and you. Sometimes other people, sometimes Kat. So yeah, thank you so much for being here. Like, comment if you want. Hope you have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, or night. And I'll see y'all tomorrow. Okay, love you, mean it. Bye. Oh my god, I really have to burp. Okay, gotta go. Bye.